up, you guys? This is Rob from Guy Plays, and today in a flash, we're going to be taking a look at all of the new goodies that Update 20 has brought to us. Now, as you guys probably already know by looking at the patch notes, it has been one hefty update. So I'm actually going to have to put the Limbo rework in a different video. I've already got the weapon buffs in another, and I'll take care of the weapon nerfs whenever we get to it, but I have so much to cover in so little time. So let's jump straight into Octavia. That sounded very inappropriate. Okay, so looking at her stats, one thing that you will notice very quickly is the fact that her shields are extremely low, like the lowest of the low. I was shocked. And her armor actually isn't half bad. Now, she's not going to be tanking anything anytime soon, but it does make you wonder whether you're going to put on redirection or you're going to be putting on steel fiber. As for her sprint speed, it is 1.05, making her a little faster than the standard, and the rest of her stats are fairly on par. Now, as for her abilities, I did want to toss them up on screen for you. I know that you guys probably have a pretty good idea as to what's going on with them, but I thought I would go ahead and show you the base stats so you guys knew what you're working with. One of the interesting things I did want to point out, mainly because of the fact that we just talked about steel fiber versus redirection, is the fact that metronome does give her an armor increase buff. Now, to supplement her abilities, Octavia has access to the mana cord, which you can access through the appearance tab. So if you go right here, you can go ahead and see it in all its glory. Here you can compose your own kinds of music. Just keep in mind that each of these things is actually attached to a different ability. So mallet has the percussion, resonator has the bass, and metronome has the melody. So keep that in mind when you're building your tune or importing another one, or, you know, maybe learn how to dance with Darude Sandstorm. Alrighty, so Octavia's number 1 is mallet, and it creates this indestructible decoy that deals damage in an area of effect that scales with the amount of damage is taken. As you can see, a level 145 heavy gunner is actually getting struck pretty hard by the beat. Just keep in mind, you can only have one of these out at a time. Whoop. Alrighty, so Octavia's second ability I have a love-hate relationship with. This creates a roller ball that actually charms all surrounding enemies. As it gains more enemies, its charm radius actually increases and it deals damage over time. Not as much as, let's say, mallet, however, you can combine the two. Tossing down a mallet will cause this thing to go and chase it and create this weird decoy construct, and I think it's absolutely hilarious, but it's really infuriating to target enemies while it is happening. Now, Octavia's number 4 is metronome, and I'm gonna apologize in advance because there is no way that I could possibly talk about it and demonstrate it at the same time, so I'm gonna have to like cut in some clips. But Vivis is the first ability that comes out of it, which is a movement speed buff that is activated by jumping. Nocturne is a stealth buff, which actually makes you invisible, that is activated by crouching. Opera is a multi-shot buff that is activated by shooting, and Forte is a melee damage buff that is activated by doing melee attacks. Now, the thing about this is you don't get the buff right away. You gotta earn the buffs. You can have all 4 buffs running at the same time, but let me show you how this works. It's gonna be a little bit tough because I am currently using a version of Darude Sandstorm, but what you're gonna see is you're gonna see a bunch of circles that kind of come out of me, and those are beats that I have to hit in order to get the buff. So let me see if I can get the multi-shot one easy so I can just do this. So as you can see, opera is going up, right? As the opera number goes up, that means that I am hitting the beats. If it goes down, that means that I'm off beat. Now, that percentage, as you can see right now, as soon as it hits 100%, grants you the buff. So you don't just get the buff straight away. That percentage is your percentage to having that buff applied to you, which is kind of like why I was like, oh my god, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. However, of course, with this is tied into, I believe, the melody of the of her kind of setup. So what ends up happening is if you have a slower melody, you'll have less rings, and each ring will count for more. At least that's the way that I've kind of noticed it work. But as you can see right here, let's see if I can make myself invisible. Right now, I'm just trying to hit it, and it is just the funniest thing because you have to like literally head bounce in order to get the invisibility buff. And that's the thing that you have to keep in mind when you're building Avara's when you're building Octavia's music kit is, do you want a lot of rings in the melody or do you want a few rings in the melody? Just making sure that you hit them better to refresh that buff. Same thing happens for Vivis, which let's go ahead and refresh. as you can see, you can have multiple buffs running, but you just have to make sure that you hit the beat in order to charge up that buff. It's not always easy because it will actually send your buff down if you are not if you're not hitting any buffs, you'll actually lose it. Which is kind of frustrating, but also kind of hilarious at the same time, but you get the movement speed buff, so that's definitely nice. You just have to kind of keep on top of it. Alrighty, so Octavia's fourth and final ability is Amp, and this is a very interesting one as it works off of the amount of sound that is in the current area. So if you take a look, just using it on its own is about 213 with the mods that I currently have in. However, adding in an extra item to boost the sound a little bit actually boosts it up to 290. Now, depending on what's going on in the area, it can drop. See, it's dropped to 239 right now, but if you add in your rollerball, it boosts it back up to 290. It does have a certain cap that it can hit. Of course, that is adjustable using power strength mods. Now, the one other interesting thing that I do want to put out there is if my rollerball would go away for a second, will it? If I drop this down right here, it has a very specific range. But if we toss out Amp, it actually ends up doubling the range and the amount of damage that it does. So, remember when you saw earlier that heavy gunner that was taking about like 900 points of damage, almost 1,000 points of damage after charging up Mallet a little bit? This can actually double that damage output, which is pretty damn incredible, especially because the range is now bigger and it's going to attract more aggro from enemies. Toss that on the rollerball and it's going to make for a very, very fun dance party. Now, moving on to weapons, we've got the Tenora. This one actually has two fairly unique firing modes. Its first is a full auto that actually increases in fire rate and accuracy the longer that you hold it down. The second is a charge shot that gets increased critical chance, and it's pretty freaking insane. Alright, so as you guys can see right now, I am using the Nocturne buff in order to keep myself invisible against this heavy gunner. But, as you can see, this thing basically has no recoil to it and can get some pretty good headshots even at full auto. Then moving on to its secondary shot, you get a charge and you get some pretty potent headshots. Boom. Oh my god, that is super, super sweet. And the thing you have to keep in mind is I only have one forma in this thing. It comes with no forma to begin with, which is kind of a bit of a bummer. But as you can see, with as much power as it packs, this weapon is definitely going to be worth it. I believe this one is available in the Tenno lab, so definitely start your research or start your prints on that. Next on the list is the Pandero, and this thing is absolutely hilarious. This is basically Overwatch's McCree in Warframe. Its primary shot is a semi-auto fire that deals a good chunk of damage. However, if you would like to fan the hammer, all you have to do is use your secondary shot, and this thing just unloads everything that's in the clip. It's absolutely insane. Now, as you can see, we are back in Nocturne because this is probably one of my favorite buffs from here. But as you can see, this has a pretty standard semi-automatic shot when we first start it. It's nice and accurate. However, where it really shines in its hilarity is being able to empty its clip entirely in a single shot. Of course, this thing does have a huge kick to it. And keep in mind the numbers that you're seeing now are mainly shit because of the fact that this comes with no polarities again. And I'm just kind of using physical damage on it. But I think that there is a lot of potential for this weapon. I'm very, very excited for it. Really. We just are doing McCree now. That's insane. Now, the next thing that I wanted to show off are the two new precepts for the Helmith Charger. As you guys know, it underwent a new visual style, which you guys will get to see in a second. But we've got Proboscis, which is basically an ancient grapple. And then we've got Trample, which bum rushes an enemy. So let's go ahead and take a look at those two in action, but let's take a look at little puppy ahead of time. Look at that. Oh my god, he looks absolutely sick. It is insane. Alright, now do note that I did go down a couple levels because, you know, I didn't want to die straight out of the gates, and I wanted to show off what this thing could do without killing it out of the gate. Look at that grapple. Oh my god. Oh, and look at that charge. Oh, that's a lot of damage against a level 80. That's not half bad at all. That thing is pretty sick. Oh, and down he goes again. Oh, right in the butt. Oh, and they're gone. They're gone. You know, I love my kitties, but it is moments like that that really make me want to try out this charger. He's gorgeous. Alright, so now because I feel bad talking so nicely about the Helmith Charger, I actually had to go and equip Aspen back and get him his new cute hoodie with his Mirrodin Kavat armor. Look at this thing. This thing is absolutely adorable. There's a lot of different ways that you can customize it. And some of the other armor pieces were a little bit too much and too ridiculous, but this I think is actually perfect. It's kind of like something you would really toss on a cat in real life. They would hate the shit out of it, but I think it looks pretty freaking good. So from Kubos to Kavats, we now end up at Monkeys with the new Wukong macaque helmet. Now, personally, I think it looks kind of badass. If you're into kind of like that almost demonic skull looking type of creature, I think it's pretty good. If you're not a big fan of like the futuristic tone that Reiku took with his Zing Z helmet, this definitely could float your boat. I really like the light pieces at the end of it, but it's definitely a different style from like the futuristic monkey type. This is a little bit darker and almost demonic. I kind of like it. I might have to make a look around that one. So while we're on the subject of alternate helms, this is the Cadenza helmet for Octavia, and I have to say, it looks pretty fucking good. Like, one of the things that I like is that they, even though they removed the big crazy plumes, you still get the little details on the back, like that rotating disc, which I think is nice if you're not kind of trying to be over the top. I like both of them a lot, and I might actually make looks for each one. Now, last and kind of least when it comes to the fashion frame world is the Mucus Syandana. I don't know what to say. It's basically, you know, Chalutu on your back. God damn it, Megan. Cthulhu. Oh, she got me. She's in there. She like just drilled into my brain with that. It's got multiple tentacles. It's infested. If you like infested, hey, go for it. I will be kind of real with you. The physics on this are actually extremely appropriate. You know how I always give like DE shit about their dangly bits? No, I think their dangly bits are quite right with this, and it hurts me. It hurts me in the most like, oh, I don't want to look at it anymore. It's really bad. Like those things up at the top, towards the top, they're fine. But down at the bottom, oh, I can't. I don't know. I don't know about that one at all. No. Alright, so before I go, I'm going to overlay some Avara combat on top of this, and I'm going to play you each one of the instrument sets so you can kind of get an idea of what you think would fit for you the best if you're looking to try to get some. So I guess stay tuned. Alrighty, so that about does it for this episode of In a Flash. As you know, there's still more content for me to cover, like the Limbo rework. I'm gonna go ahead and do separate videos on Octavia, Tenora, and Pandero once I go ahead and put full builds on them. And we'll also, at some point in time, get to the nerfed weapons. I don't know, I'm kind of in a happy place right now. I don't necessarily want those things to make me cry, but we will see those eventually. So I guess for now, as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch your body. I fucked up the rhythm. See, this is why it takes me so long to build up those stacks on Octavia. I can't do it. Anyway, you guys have a great day, and I will see you guys soon. Bye-bye.